Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square here with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. Got a great video planned out for you guys today. Today, I want to talk about a comment that I recently received. It was basically, the comment was, what do you really think is going to happen to gold and silver when Bitcoin hits $150,000? So with that being said, I don't know if that's comment is from someone that is anti-gold and silver, if they're pro-Bitcoin, or if they're just a gold and silver stacker and they're maybe worried a little bit. But it's a great comment. I've noticed that I tend to draw out a lot of really interesting comments when I do some sort of a title involving Bitcoin. It does draw out an interesting set of comments. Some of them are naysayers, some of them are honest questions. And when I get an honest question like this, I think it's worth talking about. So with that being said, you guys can put your thoughts on that in the comments. I love to hear them. And I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on that. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure and hit the thumbs up button. It really does help the channel out more than you know. On top of that, if you are not subscribed, please take a quick minute, hit that subscribe button. And on top of that, the special thank you goes out to all of our members. I should be going live either this evening or tomorrow evening at about 8:30 in the evening, and I will be doing this special free silver event at about 9 o'clock. That is a members event. It's only $1.99 to become a member, and it's just a fun thing that we do once every month. With that being said, let's jump in and get talking about what's going on. So right off the bat, I want to take a quick minute and talk a little bit about where the silver price is at. We got the silver price trading at $32.69, up a little bit over the course of last week. We didn't see any humongous gains, let's be honest. I'm not really looking for any extreme changes. I prefer slow and steady. If prices tend to climb slow and steady, they usually can hold on to their gains pretty well. If it goes up too fast, it usually comes down pretty quick. And if it goes down too fast, then essentially it usually goes right back up pretty quick too. Taking a quick look at the gold, which we did see recently a big jump where gold shot up to $3,500, and it shot up fast. I mean, towards the end, we were doing $100 a day, and then we did come back down a little bit. We recovered back down to roughly 33.23 right now, so $3,323. Not down horribly. I mean, $180 down. I mean, the way things have been going, we're a whole lot higher than we were. As you take a look at even the 1 month, a 3 month. I mean, gold is continuing to climb. A lot of people out there are wondering, hey, is this the right time to change gold for silver? I kind of want to talk a little bit more about that in another video. However, me personally, if I can find somebody that's willing to take an ounce of gold for 100 ounces of silver, I would trade it in a minute. But it is hard to find those deals. I'm not going to do 90 for one. Because I'm not going to take too much of a haircut on my investment. Taking a quick look at Bitcoin, some people want to call it the digital gold. There's no lying in it. It's obviously doing very well right now. Bitcoin's sitting at 103,000. And this is where the comment kind of comes into play. So the first thing we got to consider is, can it go to 150,000? Let's be honest. There is a extremely limited amount of Bitcoin out there. There's only so many of them, and it is getting bought up, but it's getting bought up by strong hands. So when you really understand who is controlling it, you've got big industry, certain entities, BlackRock, Michael Saylor's company, and funds, obviously holding huge amounts of Bitcoin, and they're not giving up. They keep doubling down, and I guess that's a decent strategy, that you keep buying. If it goes on sale, you buy even more. When Bitcoin dropped down to 77,000, it was a good buy, especially, I mean, if you could have made a quick, $25,000 off it, that's pretty nice. However, I personally am against Bitcoin, but I mean, it is a hot topic right now. A lot of people are getting into it, and a lot of people think that there's no way they can go wrong because there's such a limited amount. However, I've always said that, yeah, there's a limited amount, but if one person is controlling the market, or a handful, and there's no denying that 20%, 15% of the people hold the majority of the Bitcoin. I mean, the average person that's holding Bitcoin is not holding that much Bitcoin. They're not even, in some cases, holding one full Bitcoin. Now, there are a couple subscribers to the channel that I know I talk to on a regular basis. I believe they're holding a good amount of Bitcoin because they started investing in it in a couple $1,000 Bitcoin. So $2,000 Bitcoin, they're up a lot. They also believe that, it's okay to have balance and have some gold and silver. Another interesting comment before I get into the main one was that I personally have jumped to gold from silver now that gold is the clear winner of all three. That's not the case. I'm still a firm believer in silver. I actually, if I had the opportunity to trade all of my gold in for all silver, I would do it probably in a heartbeat. I don't know, there might be a couple pieces that I wouldn't want to get rid of because they're a little limited in nature, and I probably would have a tough time getting any kind of a premium. But I could sell them at a premium and then turn around and buy the silver. But then you pay the high premiums, which we do have interestingly high premiums on silver. What defines high? I mean, $2, $3, that's a little high. Although someone left me a comment a little while ago for $1.50 over spot, which is not bad. That I think is pretty good, especially if you can get some decent pieces, not just something that was beat up and drove over. I mean, that stuff's great at spot price, but I prefer to have some nicer stuff when I'm given the opportunity. So what would happen if Bitcoin did climb? So it can climb. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it can't go any higher. If it was to climb, in my personal opinion, we got to think about who is buying gold and silver. And are they strong hands or are they weak hands? So first of all, let's talk about silver, since obviously silver is the loser of the three. I hate to say that right now. Silver has industrial demand. Right now, industrial demand is down. We've got the big T that I can't talk about right now. I was told if you don't use that word in a whole video, then you'll probably have your video do a whole lot better. But once you start talking about what's going on with the T's, you've got shipping containers coming in from China that are essentially ships are empty. I mean, they're not empty, but they're not coming out as stacked as they were before. There is limited trade going back and forth with the U.S. now. Obviously, a lot of the T's going on is having an impact on what's going on. And obviously, if less trade, there's less production. Less production means less need for the materials that is being used to produce the items that everybody likes to buy. So with that being said, obviously silver does lose a little bit of potential during these times. With that being said, I still think silver is doing a great job holding up. When you look at the silver price, the fact that we're almost $33 and we're bouncing around between $32 and $33, I think that's a decent place. It's holding up pretty well. Do I think it's going to go a whole lot higher? Yeah, there are huge short positions right now that are out there. Obviously, everybody understands we talked about short positions out there. If these short positions can't cover, that will cause a default at the COMEX, and then we could end up seeing some crazy stuff start happening. Now, those are all hypotheticals, because in order for there to be a default, you have to have everybody start wanting to claim their silver. They understand that if a lot of people start claiming their silver or wanting to take physical custody of their silver, they have the ability to raise the price up at that point as it starts coming in. Most people, though, just want profits. They want profits. If you've got one contract for 5,000 ounces of silver, one contract, if the silver price goes up $1, that's $5,000. If it goes up $2, that's $10,000. There are millions of contracts out there that's going back and forth. That translates to lots and lots of silver, more silver than can ever essentially be, a year's, 2 years, multiple years worth of silver. They could eat through the silver depository instantly. So with that being said, Personally, I don't really worry too much about silver. I think silver is in a good position right now. And that being said, we'll move on to gold. Now, gold price, however, a lot of people think that, gold, who all really invests in gold? We don't even know who the big buyer is that's been bringing all this gold into New York lately. A lot of people think it's the Fed. A lot of people think it's just everyday people like us. It could be rich people. They're buying up gold. Gold has been around since the beginning of time. Some people have called it God's money. I don't necessarily like to use that term that often because I don't think I don't. How do I say this? Because I am religious a little bit, or at least I try to be. Then I have to say I don't use that comment too often. However, gold and silver has been money since the beginning of time. And once you realize that everything else is not really time tested. Let's be honest. Bitcoin, people want to say, oh, it's been around more than 10 years. Okay, 10 years is not the dawn of mankind. I mean, we've needed something to trade. And yes, we've used other stuff that no longer has value. They've used seashells. They've used beads. They've used salts. They've used food. They've used all kinds of stuff essentially as means of trade, and they still can. But the problem comes up in today's world, and even back then, gold and silver has always had a certain amount of value, whether it had value for making pretty items, whether it had value for making wedding rings, jewelry, or whether it's had value as monetary trade. With Bitcoin, yeah, I heard one comment that came out that I kind of liked. It's hard to argue against that comment that if you wanted to move all your money to another country, you can do that with Bitcoin. You can't do that with other like gold or silver. And to a certain point, a lot of people may not understand that. Yes, that's true. Bitcoin, you put it on the cloud, and you have your password, and as long as you don't lose your password, then yeah, you can go anywhere in the world and then pop it open. It's like having that little dark space that's just there that only you have knowledge to. However, how much of that gets lost when those keys get lost? In a lot of cases, I've personally have lost cryptocurrency, and I've known people that have lost a lot of cryptocurrency. If anything happens to your wallet, that's it. Now, some people want to argue and say, well, if you hold it on a site like Robinhood or whatever, I mean, here's the problem with that. Now, there's no secrecy. So if someone wants to make an argument about secrecy, you can throw that out the window. You don't hold the keys. Robinhood holds the keys, the passwords, which means they essentially hold the crypto. So you don't have it in that case. So the only way that argument can actually be made is if you're holding your physical keys, you're holding your physical crypto. And let's be honest, the average person does not know how to do that. Can they learn? Yes, but it's not as common and it's not as easy to do for people that just don't know. Now, who's buying gold? It's central banks. Central banks are buying gold. Central banks around the world are buying up gold. There's a lot of people like us that are stackers that are buying up gold. There's a lot of big banks also that are buying up gold. People have recognized that gold is going to be here to stay. And we haven't had a real true testing on Bitcoin, I don't think, where Bitcoin collapses sizably to where, I guess, where people just lose everything. That will come, I believe, eventually, but I'm not going to sit here and put fear in people's head because, like I've said, I mean, balance is everything. It always has been. I've always said diversity. Do I personally diversify as much as I should? No. I'm looking for a home run. And I think that home run is going to be in silver. It's just a matter of time. If I'm willing to put a lot more on silver, at a certain point, eventually that home run is going to come, and then that's when I'll be able to trade off some of my silver for some of my gold. Now, with that being said, does that mean I don't have any gold? Of course, I got some gold. Gold has done well, and right now, gold from what the deals that I found, have had a lower premium on gold. I even watched one big YouTuber did a video. Can you really get 100 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold? And he said no. Technically, no. You're going to probably get like 96 based on the premiums, unless you're going to give up some really cool or some more premium gold like a American Buffalo or an American Gold Eagle, and you're going to take garbage Buffalo silver rounds. Probably the worst, in my opinion, round that you can get, aside from stuff that has just been beat up in colds and all tarnished down and horrible looking. That's the kind of stuff I'm not a big fan of. Do I pick it up? Of course I do. If I can get it closer to spot, I pick up. If I can get silver at spot, I'll take anything. Anything I can get at spot, I will take. Even those little silver proof sets. I mean, I'll take those at spot all day. I mean, I pick them up periodically because a lot of people don't like them. They view the post 2001, I guess you can say, your state quarters, part quarters, all these different silver quarter sets. They view them as mass produced, and people don't want them. However, they are silver, and you can pick them up in a lot of cases at spot or slightly under spot. Whereas it's still 90% silver. It's still barterable. It does have value, and for that reason, I like it. So honestly, if Bitcoin did keep climbing, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. I don't think the people, the central banks, the people that are buying up gold are going to stop buying gold and all of a sudden flood all their money into Bitcoin and sell it all back on the market, their gold, and drop the price. I think they're going to hold the gold no matter what, because it's been around forever. And yes, it is difficult to move. I will give it that. But at the end of the day, it's not going to have a huge impact personally. Same with silver. Silver is more of an industrial metal. Anybody's going to tell you, because I've said, stackers, it's great when we all do the silver squeeze, but it doesn't have a big movement on the price. It doesn't seem it. A lot of that's because we don't impact as much as industrial demand, as much as them cutting production on solar panels. Look at what's going on in China right now. China came out and said that they cut the production of solar panels. Well, if that's the case, that they cut the production of solar panels, then silver should be plunging. We're not seeing it plunge. We're seeing it hold. And a lot of that could be because of the huge short positions out there that people know those short positions have to be paid back. For those of you that don't know what a short position is, a short position essentially is when you borrow silver, you sell it onto the market at, we'll say right now, $32.69. I borrow 1 million ounces. I get 32,690,000, and then all of a sudden I have to pay that silver back. At some point I got to buy it back off the market, which that process of buying it back drives the price even higher. And once that happens, then who knows how high it could go. There are millions and millions and millions of short contracts out there where the silver has already been borrowed and flooded back on the market and sold off. And you see it when you look at your volume down here. When you see these huge spikes, that's usually what's happening. That's usually silver being beaten down. And look, you can see it. Look at the patterns that it's happening. And it's happening more and more, and it's happening more regularly. And when that happens, that silver's getting sold off, it will drop the price at first, but eventually they've got to buy it back. And here's the thing, they just keep letting that short position build up on it. That's why I'm more favorable on silver. Is Bitcoin fun? Is it cool to say I own a piece of Bitcoin? Of course. I'd be a liar if I told you no, it's not. I've never really been a Bitcoin fan personally, but a lot of cryptos I have been a part of. And when they were booming, it was great to talk about it. It was great when I was invested in the stock market during the dot-com bubble, and I was making a ton of money. I was making more off the stock market at one point than I was making for the U.S. military. And looking back at it, I saw how quick the dot-com bubble did pop. I seen how quick the 2008 stock market crashed, and I know how quick Bitcoin could crash. Now, has that ever happened really in the price of silver? I mean, when you look at the price of silver and the price of gold, let's take a look first. Let's go back all the way. Well, do we see any drastic drops in the price of gold? Now, you could say here in 1980 you had that big drop, but look how quick it went up, and it never really came back down to where it was. And then the same thing can be said with silver. You know, when you go all the way back, yes, you have a crazy spike here. There was a very short window that you could have bought at these insane prices of $50 before it came all the way back down into the 25s and then sunk even lower. However, over time, you will see that gold and silver has done very well. Now, there's no doubt gold has done better. My plan is when we see one of these big spikes, it will come again, that I'm going to be ready and I'm going to move into gold at that point, and trade out my silver, and then boom. If it comes back down, it's no big deal. I'll still be a lot better off than I was. In fact, I'll be a lot better off. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap the video up here. I hope you enjoyed the video. I thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy it, hit the thumbs up. Go ahead and leave your comment. Let me know your thoughts. I'm not offended when people leave me Bitcoin thoughts, as long as they're, I wish people would leave me more, I guess, if you're going to leave a totally bad comment, leave a little more information on, that way I can kind of rebuttal it. But that comment was a good question. I really did like that comment. I just don't think that Bitcoin going to even $500,000 or $1 million. Someone told me the other day it was going to go to $1 million within the next 10 years. I don't necessarily think that's an ugly thing. It's just a misguided piece of information. They want to call us silver pumpers. I'm not a pumper of silver. I don't care if people buy silver or not. In fact, the more people buy it, the more expensive it gets, and then the harder it is for me to get because I don't have that much money to buy it. So we'll see what happens. And, you know, this ain't financial advice, just my opinion, and it should only be considered as such. Each person's going to have their own opinion. I thank y'all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And I will see some of y'all either this evening or tomorrow. Most likely, there's a good chance it'll be this evening, but I got to say one of them 2 evenings just to cover myself, because you never know. Lately, they've been having some power issues and stuff, so with the internet and the power. So thank you all for watching. I will see you guys again on T Square Talk. Hope you all have a great day and a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.